And you can see my screen, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this week for simple regression, we're going to see if time on hold, which is this variable named support, um, and time on hold, if that predicts revenue. I'm just going to look here. So this is discrete, 1 to 2 minutes, 2 to 4, 1 to 4. Okay, so I'm going to go, and I just want to look at the data real quick. All right, I'm going to go to Analyze, Regression, Linear, and the dependent variable is revenue, and the independent is time on hold. We're going to leave the method as enter. In statistics, I'm going to ask for confidence intervals and descriptives. And options, I believe I'm going to leave everything the same. And I hit OK. It doesn't seem to be running. There it goes. Okay. So we get our descriptives, which is important for the introduction. We have our correlation, where we can see the zero order correlation. Revenue and time on hold have a negative zero order correlation of minus 0.28. Our model is significant. We look at the R square. It's 0.08. The F and the P tell us that it's significant. The P does. Here's the F value, which is a large F value. Our degrees of freedom are 1 and 1486. And then if we look further, so we would say 8% of the variance can be accounted by time on hold. Then we look down at the individual predictor, because remember, this tells us about our model. And so that's looking at the error, the constant, all of that. Our individual predictor time on hold is also significant. We can tell from the p-value. And we see that our standardized coefficient is the same as our zero order correlation here, because there's only one variable. So the last thing that we need is, because this is significant, a graph. So I'm going to do the scatter plot. Simple. And I'm going to put time on hold is on our x-axis, and revenue, our dependent variable, on the y-axis. And this chart looks like this because the information is discrete. And it's given us this 1, 2, 3, and 4. But we know these really represent it represents 1 to 2 minutes, 2 to 4 minutes, and so on. So we want to double click here. And we want to select our add fit line at total. And as best we can, we see that this is linear and that it's negative. And so next we proceed to the write-up. Okay, and so in our introduction, we want to put the mean. I'm going to make sure we have the means, the purpose of the test. So this would look like a simple regression was conducted to test whether customers' time on hold predicts revenue. And here, I'm going to put 2516.58. So I'm just inserting the mean and the standard deviation. I'm going to go back and put the time on hold. And I might even put minutes in here. Just to remind the reader what we're talking about. Okay. And I want to say time on hold was the predictor and revenue was the criterion. Results. First, I'm going to talk about the model. This model was significant. And you could also say the model of time on hold predicting revenue was significant. R squared equals 0.08 F1 1486. That's my degrees of freedom, and I'm getting that from the regression line and the residual line. And remember, the regression line just means model, and the residual means error. So very similar to how we reported the degrees of freedom in ANOVA. Equals 126.97 P is less than 0.001. We'll make sure that's right. Okay. This indicates that time on hold accounts for 8% of the variance of customer revenue. Further, the individual predictor of time on hold was significant. B equals minus 2.44.63. Whoops, I have an extra point in there. Comma, T, my degrees of freedom, which is going to be the same as the error line, equals 11.27. Now remember, the T value cannot be negative, so don't report it negative. The B value can definitely be negative, just like a correlation, and therefore the confidence intervals can also be negative. Oops, and then the p-value, and then I want to say something about the relationship. This is a negative relationship indicating that the more time on hold a customer spends, the less money they spend. If we were to conduct this study again, we could expect and you can say the beta weight to be between negative 202 and negative 287.22. Let me see what the 202.05. Whoops. And another way to put this, especially when we're talking about money, is, another way to say this is that in the future, we could expect that every minute on hold would decrease revenue between $202.05 and $287.22. The regression equation for this model is and here I'm going to use the two numbers here and the unstandardized coefficients under the B. And my equation is predicted revenue equals B, so that's the DV or the criterion equals the constant B sub 0, which is 3191.948. And remember here in the equation, we carry it out the decimal points to 3 places. And then you would say plus the beta weight, but because our beta weight's negative, we're going to say minus the beta weight, 244.632. And this beta weight is multiplied by x1, or our independent variable or a predictor, and that is time on hold. And I think one thing you want to do is capitalize the words of your variables in this equation so it looks professional, like I've done here. And then here I'm just going to say, please see figure 1. And then my figure 1 is going to be you could say scatter plot or relationship of time on hold to customer revenue. You want to make sure this is all italicized. And I also want to go back up and italicize. I'm going to copy this. Copy. That may be on the next page now. All right, I'm having trouble copying it. But I want to go back and obviously your mean and your standard deviation are italicized. The other thing is make sure that this R is a subscript. I'm sorry, a superscript, meaning that it's up high, it's not down below. Then once you do that, you want to italicize it. Your F is italicized just like it was in ANOVA. So is your P. And then here, your B is italicized, your T, and your P. Also remember that R square is your effect size. And we can translate it into a very business-friendly language by saying this indicates that time on hold accounts for 8% of the variance of customer revenue. And I also want to add this is a small effect because it's less than 0.10. 0.10 is to 0.2, 0.9 is a small effect. Okay. Okay. I'm going to try one more time. I'm having trouble doing that. But one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that these are labeled correctly. Know that it's set up appropriately in the database. You want to remove this word graph. And it's okay if you can't get this out of there. That's fine. And ideally, although we didn't talk about it in class, you would want to change the labels to to match what the values say. And I'm not sure why this one is not coming up that way. And I don't know how to change it, but that might be something you want to look into. Notice that it doesn't say, and what I'm talking about here is oops, that's not what I meant to do. What I'm talking about here is in our variable view, 1 is less than a minute. We would want this to show up there. So those of you that are good at graphs might be able to figure out how to get that on this new SPSS. You're not going to get counted off for the homework, but that's something that for the case study you would want to make sure that that's correct. And so that is all that I have. Any questions? Okay, if there's no questions, I'm going to stop recording.